G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it.
Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Nina Christian, who is a marketing mentor and strategist based in Melbourne, Australia. And today we're going to be discussing personal positioning. Thanks for your time, Nina.
You're welcome. It's wonderful to be here with you today.
Yes, we got here. You've had a bit happening over Christmas school holidays with 5 kids.
Yep, 5 kids, a 50th, and our first book, FFF.
And a new house.
Yeah, that was at the end of last year.
Yeah,
So all of the above.
A lot going on, right? So we're here, and how we met Amanda Jones, who I work Collins SBA, introduced us before Christmas, and finally we're here talking about personal positioning. To kick off, how about just tell our audience a bit about yourself and your experience on this topic?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I guess you could say I'm a career marketer in multiple formats, although 30 years, I guess, gives me a bit of experience, and 2 decades of that I ran a marketing agency. That agency was initially a full service agency. It won some nice awards like Best Marketing Agency at the Australian Marketing Excellence Awards. It covered a range of B2B clients and in the tech space, as well as some major events. Although to the latter end of that, as things transitioned with a heavy focus towards content marketing, and then I could see the evolution of personal brands and the trend for people, audiences wanting to connect more with people than logos and entities, I started shifting my focus more heavily away from doing the whole content marketing and to the personal branding. That's a little bit from my background as a marketer. I'm also an entrepreneur. I've had a startup, which I, back in the .com boom, built and sold back in 2008. And I was the state chair of the Australian Marketing Institute in Victoria for 7 years, approximately up until the end of last year. These days, I've just written a book. I speak and I train experts, entrepreneurs, and corporate professionals all around the world in the area of personal branding and positioning.
Fantastic stuff on this, which is fantastic. Look forward to
And it's ever evolving,
yes.
And I think that's one of the things that I'd be excited to dive into with this podcast is that there is no playbook, there is no rule book. The marketplace and the landscape is so dynamic and ever changing. Anyone who says they've got it all figured out doesn't really know what they're talking about because it is shifting. While there are timeless principles which become lenses that we look through, there's no magic formula or magic system. And so it is really exciting space, and that's one of the things as a marketer. Even though I speak and teach and write, I actually love the craft of it and the sport of it and figuring it out and seeing where it's going and trends and being a future caster, if you will. And so I love playing in this space now that we're in, where things are shifting so dynamically with a lot of technology and artificial intelligence and proliferation of personal brands. And it's just a really fun space to be in. I just like to use that disclaimer when people say expert. I don't think that anyone is an expert. Yes. The rate of change we're going through, we're all just figuring it out, but some of us has probably just got a bit more experience in the figuring out space in some areas.
Yes, no, got you there. So maybe to kick off, where would a small business owner start, if you like, as far as their personal brand positioning that in the marketplace to help their business?
I feel a lot of business owners are a little bit scared to ask because it can be quite confronting. And the majority of small business owners that I've engaged with that have, let's say, a small team or a medium-sized team are quite used to being in the background, as opposed to a lot of very small micro businesses and solopreneurs, which are used to putting themselves out there from the get-go. There are 2 main camps, which is one is they're very confident, extroverted, thought leader-ish type business owner that's very happy to speak and present, etc. But they are, and that's great, tend to be in the minority, and the majority are very much of like, I'd like marketing to do it. I'd like marketing to take care of things. I know I need to do it, but I'm not comfortable being the face of my brand. I'd rather promote the business. And there are a whole lot of good reasons for that. And it's definitely not an either or, it's a both and. But the biggest trend that has emerged over the last, been gently emerging for many years and slowly over decades, but it really accelerated during COVID and post that time as well, is that people really no longer are satisfied knowing just logos and entities and corporate facades. They want to know the people behind the brand. And in many cases, and especially with small businesses, that that's the people running the business, the people who founded the business. And it doesn't necessarily mean that a founder owner needs to always be out in front and center on social media or anything like that. But what it does mean is that somehow it's going to be more powerful for their business development, for their growth, for their sales, for their customer retention, if there is a way that they can be more visible in a way that feels good to them without putting them into the uncomfort zone. I'm sure there are some questions around that you'd like to unpack further. So I'll handball it back to you and you can let me know what from there you'd like to go. But that is definitely, it is both a challenge, but it's an invitation for growth and connection with customers because people are craving that human connection. And so if you can find a way to meet that need, the opportunity is there for a much, much deeper bond or connection, not just your customers, but people in your audience, the people that you'd like to serve, your industry, your network, future staff, and many more as well.
Great context, and what underpins it, as you say, is people like to do business with people and not just a brand or a logo and the like, right? Working from there and to the point where a business owner might say to you or I, well, I'm not comfortable with that. And as you say, to be comfortable with whatever you do to market your personal brand, have you got some sort of, again, it depends on the context, I get that, but maybe some options where you've got business owners going, hey, I'm not really comfortable with this. You've got some sort of options you can talk to that would help them work through that?
Yeah, definitely. It really is a matter of finding entry points that you're comfortable with. And there's a couple of different approaches, and I'll kind of just bullet point them here. And obviously, I've got a book about it and a whole bunch of resources if people want to go deeper. But one area is really like, just imagine this. I'll just backtrack for a second. And before we get into the what, let's think about the why for a second. And that is anyone who's engaging with your business, whether it's with your website, social media, your emails, at a speaking at an event, on a phone call, in their head, asking these questions is really about what do you do? How can you, why is that relevant? Why does that matter? How can you help me? Why should I trust you? Or why can I trust you? And how can you help me? Like, how would I work with you? The businesses that are doing it really well at the moment, answering those questions in a non-direct and very nuanced way. And the most effective way of answering those questions is show, don't tell, because the volume of information that's coming at us at the moment, it's so professionally polished, unquote, good. It's very hard at the moment for people to find and connect with the human element of that. And so when we talk about not just telling people what they should do, but showing people the way, or showing people examples, or showing why things matter, or why they can trust us, it's so much more powerful than telling people how we can help them or why they can trust us. And so that involves people, and it could be the founder, it could be anyone on the team. And the key to, I would encourage founders to be taking a few approaches. One is, where possible, empowering your team to be able to talk about the impact of the work they do. And that is a way that empowers the person to have their voice heard and talk about things that are meaningful to them, things that matter, but in a way that's strategically aligned with the brand that they're working for and the work they're doing at the moment. And a lot of business owners get a bit nervous about that because they think, oh, letting my people build their personal brand, and maybe if they're good, someone else will take them, or I don't want them to become the face of the brand instead of me. But they don't realize that people are going to do that anyway. They're going to build their personal brand. By supporting them to do it, you are empowering them to, it's a win-win scenario because they're talking about the impact of the work they do, which one would assume if you're listening to this, you probably are doing some good work and having an impact in the world. And sharing, letting your people share about that is actually really powerful in giving people an anchor point or a connection point, not just to the person, but to the business that sits behind that person. And that's the first thing, is being open-minded to how you empower your employees and support your employees and encourage them and allow them to experiment. But the second way is thinking about what would be comfortable ways for people to get to know you a little bit. And it doesn't mean you need to plaster photos of your breakfast all over social media. It's absolutely not that. It is, how do you infuse the essence of you into your brand so that you can amp up the connection factor of the business? Like, people want to know, why did you start the business? Why does it matter? How are you different from other businesses? What goes on behind the scenes? This is all stuff that builds trust, and it falls into the show, don't tell category. While a lot of business businesses think that people are interested in products, services, feature updates, legislation, statistics, and lists of how to do things, that's all kind of very 5 to 10 years ago. What they're interested now is what makes your business personable, human, relatable. And so to be able to fit into that category, it does involve sharing a little bit about ourselves. And we get to be in control of that narrative. You get to choose how much or how little you share. You don't have to share everything. It could be just literally one little sliver of your life that you're happy to add into the professional side of things, which together make you seem more human. That's a really short answer to a very big, expansive question of how do they feel more comfortable. But I think they would be the two, in summary, the two things is one, be open to finding a way that is going to gently allow elements of you to be infused into the business in a way that feels good to you. And it doesn't need to mean you need to be doing live stream videos on social media. It might mean that you allow other people to share pictures of you and quotes about the things that you've said in meetings or events or things like that. That's just one example. There's many, many more. Turning your content into blog pieces and thought leadership is another way. Sitting down and having chats with maybe a journalist or a professional interviewer who makes you feel comfortable talking about the things that matter to you could be another way as well. That's examples on just little ways people could start to feel more comfortable in positioning themselves as a thought leader, a credible expert, a founder who cares about their business, the leader of a business that matters and is creating impact in the world. And then the second part of the equation is to not be scared about empowering your people to talk about the impact of the work that they do, because that's definitely a win-win. And to be honest, people in most cases will judge a business more on what the employees say than what the founders and managers say. So it's a both and scenario for managers and founders and leaders. They very much want to pick up on the heartbeat and the congruency and the intention that sits behind what they're saying. And then they want to see, does that match the expression of what I see from the people as well? And so empowering your people to do that is very much a win-win, because it makes them feel like their work matters, their voice matters. And aside from building the brand of the business and from a business development perspective, it also has been demonstrated to have impacts around staff productivity, staff happiness, because they feel more valued for their work. So not only does it help with nurturing customer relationships, maintaining existing customers because there's more interaction and there's more visibility because you as a firm are front of mind and come across more approachable. It also in turn makes your staff happier because they feel more empowered as well. So they are the two big things that I would encourage business owners to start to think about if they're new to this whole arena.
Yeah, that's two very good tips for our listeners. And what I picked up is sort of a key piece is authenticity of the owner, the people and the business. Is that a fair
Yeah, absolutely. People have a very finely attuned BS detector.
Yeah.
And if what's on the website is different to what they see in real life, they won't necessarily know why, but there's like this internal jarring or grating that goes on. And so people are looking for authenticity, they're looking for congruency, and it's about finding those ways. And it's not to say that every element of your business and of your marketing is going to be perfect, but it's going to be finding those things that are congruent and aligned and feel good and are an accurate expression internally and externally, and leaning into those rather than trying to be like other businesses or following this system because someone said it's the hot thing right now, or trying to create a particular persona because you think that that's what people want to see. At the end of the day, they just want to see you and your team and your business, and showing a little bit of, dare I say, messiness is actually okay, even in a business context, because as you said, people do business with people, and we know that we're all human. And I think if there's one thing that's what we all learned and experienced globally through the pandemic was this coming down of this facade and this need to be perfect. And so businesses that are starting to be comfortable leaning into that, and it's not about showcasing imperfection, but it's not necessarily about trying to hide it and make everything polished and perfect. It's just being okay with what is. And so I think that's a really healthy and sustainable way to approach this whole area of positioning, because if you put expectations on yourself that it does have to be polished and perfect and professional all the time, we're all humans and we all have bad days and we can't live up to that, and we have messy desks and we make mistakes as well, and we have learnings. And I think even being open, and this is very contextual, of course, this is not one size fits all advice, but being very contextual, what learnings you share, when and how, doing that smartly and strategically can bring down that facade and increase that connectivity predictability factor. And so thinking about how you could do that as a business, as an individual, what things you would encourage your team to do, what you've learned, and how might be ways that you can share that in a way that it's not just about you, it's actually helping your audience or your customers or your listeners or your readers or your network or your industry, and sharing those learnings from a place of service. It actually has a ripple effect on your business development in a way beyond you trumpeting the awards, the wins, and the new product.
Do you find it difficult to define and execute a clear strategy for your small business? Does your team support your strategy? You know you are ready to create the right environment to boost your team's performance. Our 80-day business transformation program is designed for small business owners like you, with 5 to 30 team members who are ready for growth. Every day you'll receive a short email with a handful of growth actions. You'll invest 30 minutes each week in your one-on-one coaching session, tackling your specific growth challenges with one of our experienced growth guides, business owners themselves. Boost your confidence, your team's performance, and grow your small business with ease with our business transformation program at growsmallbusiness.com.
Have you got maybe a story of business you've worked with to sort of illustrate the power of the personal positioning?
Sure. I'll probably start with my own because I'm a real mess sometimes. And for many years, so when I was running an agency, I did feel the need to be very polished and professional. And especially as a marketer, for decades, we'd had professionals do our copywriting and our video, and we'd done things on our good day, and profession is making brands look good. So when it came to my own initiatives, there was very much a thing of, well, I need to be an example in that area. But I very quickly figured out that I couldn't live up to my own expectation, and that A, it was exhausting, B, it was not possible, and C, people didn't necessarily relate in the same way. And as I started to drop my guard and talk about things that were more meaningful to me, and also some of the slightly messier sides of my life, when I felt that was specifically in service to my audience, not gratuitously for attention, but when I genuinely thought, I know so many people struggle with this, and I'm going to give you a snapshot into how I've struggled with it too. I found the connection factor increase a lot. And I was very nervous doing this at first. Personally, I started building my own personal brand more actively, probably starting around 2016, 2017. And at the time, I was very nervous. I was very hesitant. I'd always hidden behind a logo. And even as a marketing agency, I had a logo, and I felt really good about sharing the logo. I felt good about sharing the wins, the work, the awards, all the things. Sharing about me was a lot harder. And I was, as a marketer as well, very nervous how I was going to be received in the industry by my peers and colleagues, when I guess lowered this slight, I wouldn't say facade, but this need to be so perfect. And it was really interesting for me, because then I went on a journey of a couple of years of really leaning into that. And what I expected was the opposite to what I expected happened. People really gravitated to that. People really related. And even in my industry, a lot of people started seeing me as a role model and a pioneer in bringing a human face to a tough or stilted approach to marketing. And then a few years later, well, actually it was like the year before last, the demonstration of the power of that came when in the marketing fraternity. So I received an award for lifetime member of the Australian Marketing Institute, which is like the pinnacle award for service to the marketing industry and the Marketing Institute and community. And I was really astounded, because it came off the back of me just following missioning my own way. I just example because there was an award that I won for my logo, and I felt like, oh, how do I keep this up? And really needed to live it. Went on that journey. Well, I guess briefly, one good example is probably my own, ironically, because I ran an agency, and even as a professional marketer, feeling the need to have a logo and hide behind the logo, and that people would regard me more professionally if I had that. But I could see things changing, and I really could see that I was going to be useful to people if I shared a little bit more of the behind the scenes. And that led me into this whole area of being more open around personal branding and as founders, and encouraging people to do that. And the opposite of what I expected actually happened. I actually found that people related to that so much more. And the pinnacle of that was for me when I was honoured as the lifetime member of the Australian Marketing Institute. And that wasn't for professional work necessarily necessarily that my agency had done, all the accolades and accomplishment, but really around being a voice in the marketing arena and in the Marketing Institute context and for leadership. What was so powerful to me personally around that experience is that I'd really done that on my own terms and really letting people into the human side and a little bit of the mess of my life rather than this polished and professional, because I think it gives people permission to see that, to show that you're like them as well. The stark contrast between the agency and then the person showed me the power of the human connection. And just one thing that's kind of tangential but related to that is I am actually a very private person. I don't share a lot of stuff about my kids and family and personal circumstances on social media. So it doesn't necessarily mean you need to be an open book. I respect my children's privacy. In fact, I admire them for that and I respect that. And I am creative around the ways that I find that. So it's not like you need to talk about aspects of your life that are private to you. It's really about finding a few that are going to be in service and relatable to your audience.
Yeah, no, that's great. Good story. And I guess that vulnerability, shame vulnerability is all part of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the brave new world. And we're just on the cusp now with the proliferation of all of these AI tools and technologies that are coming at us. We've gone from people not being able to produce content because they don't know what to say, and therefore there's like feeling like you're not producing enough, to now there's a glut of it because there's so many people producing things, but at the same time, people's attention is going down as well. And so there's less bandwidth to consume that, but way more information to consume. Having that connection factor is really key to getting cut through in a very crowded marketplace, which is set to increase exponentially in give it another 6 to 12 months when everyone actually gets their head around their tools. It's like the Wild West with artificial technology at the moment. And just thinking that a piece of technology is going to solve the problem, it won't, because it's just going to add more noise. And it might be good noise, but it's like still it's noise. It's finding those personal touch points. And that's what people are going to connect with, because they want to connect with your energy. They want to connect with your vibe. They want to connect with the humanness of what you're doing in your business. And so that is where there's a huge, huge opportunity now for businesses that are prepared to explore that, experiment with that, and embrace that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably a good way to finish in that, yeah, AI is certainly out there, but it's use it as an enabler, not the end result, right? Thanks for your time, Nina. It was a great chat, and I think a topic that I don't think is appreciated by small business owners. So it's good that you share some of the important pieces. And if anyone wants to learn more, obviously they got your book now, Marketing Me, and we'll put those in the show notes for people to access and learn a bit more and improve their own personal positioning.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thanks, Nina.
Want to help other small business owners improve their business? There's one quick thing you can do, which is jump over to iTunes and leave a review. Or if you don't have an account, follow us on Spotify.